Do you want to know how to correctly shift your pressure during the golf swing in order to increase your club head speed and improve your consistency of strike? I'm going to explain to you the difference between pressure shift and weight shift in the golf swing. I'm going to show you 3 drills you can do to improve your pressure shift and feel what the correct movements should be during your golf swing. Firstly, we need to understand the difference between centre of gravity and centre of pressure. In golf terms, the simplest way of thinking about it is our centre of gravity is our total body weight and how our total body weight moves in the golf swing, whereas centre of pressure is the pressure and force we can create through each individual leg. Fundamentally, this is why having adequate levels of strength, stability and mobility within the lower body is vital for moving your pressure effectively. So as an example, if I take this stick and place it in the centre of my body, splitting my body from 50-50 equal side, this is my centre of gravity or centre of mass. However, if I was to push as hard as I can through my right leg into the floor without notably moving my centre of mass, i.e. my weight start to shift to my right, I am creating a pressure and a force into one leg. As a result, my mass has not moved, whereas my pressure has increased in one side, and I can then do this into the left side as well. And as we notice, the mass stays very neutral and very centred. So as with the centre of pressure, obviously we've talked about force in an individual leg. Now with force, we cannot see it necessarily visually, but on a force plate like I'm on here, as I turn my mass, so you see how my mass has stayed pretty centred, all my pressure is going into my trail leg, my right leg. And we can see how the force line has increased significantly, yet my weight has stayed pretty central. And then as we shift into the lead leg, that force significantly increases into the left side, whereas my mass is fundamentally staying pretty neutral and moving around myself. But we can see where the forces are moving significantly between the trail leg and the lead leg in transition. So the first drill I want you to do is to understand where pressure is in each individual foot and what that feels like in the different directions. I'm going to demonstrate this on the force plate so you can get a clear visual. Now in this position in the golf swing, as we start to rotate the hips back, we know that pressure is going to go towards the trail heel because we're getting some depth into the trail hip, or at least that's what we want, and that pressure is moving more towards the heel. So I can take my trail toe off and that pressure goes backwards. From here, what I want you to try and feel is where does different parts of pressure work in the foot. So we can almost get this side to side pressure, this front to back pressure, and then this very vertical pressure. And how we work these in combination when we're rotating, we want to feel some vertical pressure to traction the floor. We want to feel some pressure go a little bit towards the heel and a little bit towards the outside of the foot. How that foot moves and interacts with the ground will determine also how the hip moves and vice versa. And then how that pressure changes from the lead side to the trail side and vice versa, how we get that shift. Do we get excessive lateral motion into the outside of the foot, or are we able to push down and back into the heel and out the ground? So feeling where those different pressures are and how each individual foot reacts and interacts with the ground is a key starting point to understanding how these movement drills are going to play a role. Next, we want to take a kettlebell that needs to be not too heavy to the point where we can't actually move it, but it needs to have enough weight to it where we actually can't just move our arms, so we get that real feeling of where the centre of mass is versus the centre of pressure. I want you to adopt a golf posture, but really focus on soft knees where you just sat into the floor slightly and a little bit of a hip hinge so the pelvis is kind of moved back and the upper body is moved forward so that kettlebell's hanging deep underneath us. From here, I want you to focus on getting that centre of pressure evenly distributed around the balls of the feet. So we're not on our toes, we're not deep into the heels. All you're going to do is move this kettlebell side to side as a feeling first. What you'll be able to notice is I'm just simply moving my arms, whereas my mass and my pressure has stayed pretty central. There's very little motion occurring left to right through my feet or my hips. Now in the golf swing, we obviously rotate the hips and move the pelvis. We want that feeling of that centre of mass staying very in the middle, so we're kind of neutral, yet we create that force and pressure into the trail hip. So as I go to my right, I'm going to move my right hip back and feel that pressure towards that heel, that traction on the floor. From there, I just want to softly do the opposite in a different direction. And as we can see, I am moving my pressure from right to left in the correct fashion through moving my hips, whereas that center of mass, almost looking to the middle of my chest, my sternum, has stayed very neutral and very centered. And just by doing this drill, we can feel how the pressure moves right to left, where that interaction with the ground is, and how we don't sway and move our mass and weight excessively left to right. The next drill, we're going to focus on how we move that pressure early in the takeaway, how we control that center of mass, and how we create some momentum to create a bigger turn, a bigger stretch, but in the correct manner where we keep our stability. I use a medicine ball for this, or a heavy ball. You can also use a plate or a dumbbell, but with the ball, it forces us to hold underneath, which means we automatically take our arms out of the equation. What I mean by this, if I go into a golf posture, because there's plenty of weight in this ball, probably upwards of 8 to 10 kilos, it's quite difficult to just simply lift the arms in a normal fashion. In order for me to get this ball high, as you can see straight away, I've got to push into my trail side, so let a little bit of mass shift, get all my pressure into that trail side to create the momentum to kind of push in and up and rotate. So what I'm looking for is almost feeling like we're going to shift a little bit of our mass and weight towards the trail side, get some pressure into that trail foot towards the heel as we start to rotate, and then essentially feel like we lift the ball upwards, we elevate. So that's essentially promoting the pelvis to turn to the trail hip and to stay centered by coming up. So we don't basically shift off the ball. So done in full motion, we want to try and get some momentum early. So I go this, push, set, and elevate. So in a normal speed, we can see how I can get that ball nice and high without essentially shifting massive weight and moving off the ball. And we're trying to really push into that right leg, that trail foot, and keep it stable, moving around ourselves. So with this next drill, you can focus on this at home. This doesn't have to be part of a training program, and that's why I promote it to be a drill as well as an exercise, so it can be done in 2 separate ways. All you need is a slam ball and something firm to throw against, so an external wall. If you struggle with pressure shift in your golf swing, this is a great way of learning that feeling in a powerful momentum movement and try and kind of transfer that to your golf swing. So you simply take your ball and adopt that golf posture setup. And we're trying to piece those 2 areas together, so that pressure shift and that movement to then explosively push into the lead side and rotationally throw the ball explosively. Now what's very important here is we don't essentially just turn the upper body and throw with the arms like a rugby pass. We use that clear pressure move into the trail side, letting that mass just create some momentum. And now we're trying to create that transitional where we push into the lead side. So almost like we're feeling like we're stepping into the shot. So for you, you can do both ways. So we either want to feel pressure and turn, and we can see how I've got all the way into my lead side, all my pressure is moved, but my mass hasn't lunged forward. Or we can even do that little step to just help you feel that pressure actually move early enough and in the right manner. So from here, as I turn, almost let that foot come off the floor and then replant and push out of it. So we're really creating that explosive momentum, that effective pressure shift, and that explosive rotational force and power like we want in the golf swing. As discussed today, we know that moving pressure effectively and biomechanically correct can help with clubhead speed and efficiency in movement. However, if you want to train to increase your clubhead speed alone, check out this video next.